Greetings. I'm Professor Hobo, and welcome to another HOBOTECH product review. Solar generators have come a long way in the past few years. BLUETTI, one of the most innovative brands in the market, has just shook up the world with yet another incredible offering called the AC300. It's the first BLUETTI product to feature fully modular interchangeable batteries, support for up to 2,400 watts of solar panels, 3,000 watts of AC wall charging, split phase 240 volt operation, and the ability to scale up to an incredible 24,000 watt hours. Oh, and it just happens to have a programmable true UPS built in and app support that will let you control it from anywhere in the world. Has BLUETTI just changed the game? Let's find out.
HOBOTECH.
Now, if this thing looks pretty big, it kinda is. The AC300 comes with actually no built-in battery. So this bottom part just has the inverter, the electronics, the charger and stuff in it. No batteries built in. The top part here is actually what they call the B300 battery. This is 3,072 watt hours, and you can add up to 4 of them for every AC300. And you can purchase bundles that include between 1 and 4 of these 3,000 watt hour lithium iron phosphate batteries. And that gets you anywhere from 3,000 to 12,000 watt hours of power depending on your budget and needs. You can also connect a second AC300 in parallel to double those figures and provide 240 volt split phase support. As for the size and weight, the AC300 itself, which is this bottom part, is a meager 48 pounds, making it a piece of cake for most people to handle. However, the B300 battery weighs in around 80 pounds each, making them much less tossable. The big built-in handles, however, and small footprint really helps make it more maneuverable. As for the display is the same quality, color-resistive touchscreen as the AC200P and AC200 Max, and it works well with gloves. As for the built-in inverter, this supports a massive 3,000 watt pure sine inverter with a 6,000 watt surge. Comes with 6 20 amp AC outlets and a 30 amp RV outlet. As for solar controllers, the AC300 is unique on the market in that it has dual MPPT controllers built in. That's right, it actually has 2 controllers built inside and they work independently. You can have different voltages, you can put different things on each one, makes it very versatile. Each one of the MPPT controllers in this can handle up to 1,200 watts of solar, and each one of those legs can do up to 150 volts at 12 amps. So you can actually have 2 arrays of 1,200 watts of solar panels, both running 150 volts up to 12 amps. As for charging speeds, get ready to have your mind blown, because the AC300 has a built-in AC wall charger that can charge the unit up to 3,000 watts. That's right, that's 25 amps from an AC wall outlet. This is the first solar generator on the market to offer this insane charging rate from the mains. Of course, you do need a 30 amp outlet in order to take advantage of this, and the optional 30 amp cable that you can get from BLUETTI. Otherwise, you're limited to either 15 or 20 amps of charging depending on your wiring, and this is specifications for the United States. At 3,000 watts, you can charge a single B300 battery from 0 to 100%, not that cheating 0 to 80% stuff. We're talking from 0 all the way to full in under 1 hour. And if you decide to max out the solar on this unit at 2,400 watts, you can expect to charge the one B300 battery in around an hour and a half. The AC300 does in fact support dual charging. So you can charge from the wall at 3,000 watts at the same time you charge with 2,400 watts of solar. In that scenario, you can charge one of these B300 batteries in about a half an hour. Now, this BLUETTI does support single solar panel charging, which was a big issue with the AC200P, and it also supports charging from 12 and 24 volt vehicles as well as lead acid and lithium batteries. Although it's going to take you a really long time to charge this thing using 12 volts. Now, as for 12 volt outputs on this, the AC300 itself doesn't actually have a 12 volt cigarette lighter output. You can find that up here on the B300 battery. What the AC300 does offer is a 24 volt cigarette lighter socket output and a 12 volt 30 amp accessory output that you can hardwire into a van or RV in order to power all your 12 volt stuff. And as for USB output types, the AC300 offers a single 100 watt USB power delivery port, 2 quick charge ports, and 2 standard USB ports. Each B300 battery offers an additional 100 watt power delivery port and a QC USB port, giving you tons and tons of high-powered USB outputs. And as for other outputs, this BLUETTI also offers the standard dual 15-watt wireless charging pads on the top, which you can't see because I have the battery on top right now. Do note, unlike a lot of the competitors, you can actually stack the B300 batteries on top of the main unit for making a nice stable tower. And in fact, when you put the battery on top of the AC300, it sort of locks into place, so they line right up and click in. Makes it a nice, even looking stack. The AC300 also offers an app for both Apple and Android that lets you remotely control the unit via either Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, and it is your choice. Most only offer one way or the other, and BLUETTI also doesn't force you to sign up a cloud account with them in order to use your app, so your privacy can be maintained. And there are future options to allow EV car charging and wind turbine charging. The latter I will go into more detail in a future video. And of course, like all BLUETTI products, it does come with a 2-year manufacturer's warranty. And of course, we took this crazy beastie into our brand new secret laboratory in order to perform all kinds of crazy experiments on it. Final results of the AC capacity test using an electric heater, 2,220 watt hours. The heater ran for 161 minutes. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to do a 30-hour 12-volt battery capacity test on this model, but I may do that in a future video if there's enough interest. Now, I did this test 4 times, twice with a 5,000 BTU air conditioner and twice with a 1,600 watt electric heater. The results were 2,220 watt hours out of 3,072, or a below average 72%. I did update the firmware in this to the latest version prior to testing. Hopefully before BLUETTI ships these units to customers, they can improve these results a little bit. The CEO told me that their engineers were getting over 80% in their results. So maybe they're using an experimental firmware or something else. The new BLUETTI AC300 actually supports up to 5,400 watts of charging. I can briefly show you for a few seconds that this does actually charge at 3,000 watts from a wall outlet. Now, normally you have to get the 30 amp plug from BLUETTI, which is an optional accessory. They didn't give that to me, so I'm going to plug it in and show you that it actually will charge at 3,000 watts. Which is faster than any product on the market from AC wall outlet. And the charger is built in. Most of the time, 1,800 watts, 2,000 watts is the maximum. Okay, the first place we need to go is here to it's where it says max grid input current. And you hit this, and you say yes, and then you have to put in a special password. Now, I know what the special password is. So once you get to this screen, you can choose 10 amps to 30 amps or user defined, which will let you put in whatever you want. By factory, it's set at 15 amps. I'm going to set it to 30, and we're going to see what happens here. And watch right here, it'll say AC input power. I'm only going to let this happen for a few seconds. It'll say 3,000 watts. Hopefully we won't blow the breaker. There it is, 3,000 watts. I'm going to unplug it. Woo! So because I only have a 20 amp receptacle over here, I can't exceed 20 amps for very long. So I just wanted to show you guys, this can be charged at 3,000 watts, 30 amps, but you're going to need to get their special optional cable. It's a twist lock cable. Now for part 2 of the max charge rate test. Part 1 was to show you how much it can charge from AC wall outlet. Part 2 to show you how much it can charge from DC sources. The AC300 can take anywhere from 12 to 35 volts when it's set to other mode. So you can actually go inside the settings here, it's the screen that we're on right now, and you can set, do you want it to be in other mode or do you want it to be in PV or solar mode? Now, here's something very interesting, a first I've ever seen for a product. And the way they have this designed, which is very unique, is that they give you this solar cable, okay? This is what I call a Medusa because it looks like it's got, you know, about a million snakes coming off of it. But this side goes into the AC300, and then you have two pairs of MC4 connectors. You have two blacks, two reds, so two positives, two negatives. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, this is just so that you can parallel solar panels, right? Because, you know, we've seen before where they give you a cable like this and it allows you to put multiple panels in parallel. This is not the case. These are actually two completely separate MPPT controllers. Inside the AC300, they have two controllers, not just one. This allows you to run 1200 watts of solar up to 150 volts on each one of these. So you can have a whole bunch of panels on one side, a whole bunch of panels on the other side for combined 2400 watts of solar. Now, here's what gets really interesting. They give you all these other adapters where you can put battery clamps on one side. You can put 12-volt cigarette lighter on one side, and you can use those both at the same time from completely different voltage sources because there's two different controllers inside. So you can have one charging from a lead acid, another one charging from solar. You can kind of do whatever you want. This is really, really cool. I like the way they implemented this. So I have right here my variable voltage charger. You guys have seen this on the channel for years. I have a pair of MC4 coming out of this charger, and this allows me to change the voltage from practically 0 to about 52. So what we're going to do, we're going to pick any pair of these because it doesn't matter which ones you use. The blacks are a ground, so it goes by the red ones. So one of the reds is PV1, the other one's PV2. They're not labeled, so you don't know which one's which. You just have to kind of plug it in and look on the screen. So I'm going to pick any two, it doesn't matter. Okay, so here DC1 input source is PV, DC2 input source is PV. So we're going to change both of these to other. And that'll allow us to do 12 to 35 volts. So now we're actually charging using 13.4 volts, which is what you'd get from a standard vehicle that's running or a full lithium-ion battery. Now note in 12-volt mode or 24-volt mode, you can only charge at 8.2 amps. So I do need to make a correction here. The limit on the other mode is up to 24, it looks like around 25 volts, and then it goes I thought it was originally 35 volts. They don't mention in the electronic manual that I got what the voltage limit is when you're in the other mode. So it looks like it is only 24, 25 volts because as soon as I exceed that, we stop charging. So let's go ahead and go into the settings and switch those to PV mode. Now I have my big 1800 watt charger. This does 48 volts at 37 amps. Now, the input is limited on this to 12 amps per circuit, so I'm not going to be able to max out this charger by any means. I have this tweaked to about 50 volts. It'll supply virtually unlimited amps to the BLUETTI. I just want to see how many watts can we actually get at around 50 volts. So you can see there, 580 watts at 50 volts. Okay, so that's not very impressive. What I'm going to have to do is now use my voltage booster and see if I can get the voltage higher, which will use more amps out of this. I have my 1800 watt charger going into this voltage converter. So here we go, I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. Boom! Instantly 1150 watts. So there we go, proof is in the pudding that we know each leg of the PV input on this can take at least 1200 watts. It might take a little bit more, but like I said, I don't have the equipment to push this any harder. Now it's time to test the various DC outputs on this. What's very strange and something I highly disagree with is that BLUETTI put a 24 volt output on this that's a cigarette lighter. So you know what this means. The general public doesn't understand voltages. They're just going to plug in their 12 volt appliance into that cigarette lighter and it's going to blow it up. I'm going to tell BLUETTI if there's something they can do with the production model to put a warning or something some way so people accidentally think this is a regular 12-volt cigarette lighter output, because this will fry a 12-volt device in seconds. By the time you figure it out, it's already going to be smoking. So this is a 10 amp 24-volt output. This is regulated. Next to it's a 12-volt 30 amp output, but that's not a cigarette lighter, obviously. That's going to require a special cable. We'll get to that. There is no 12-volt cigarette lighter output on the AC300. If you want the cigarette lighter outputs, they're on the B300 batteries. And I'll go ahead and test this separately, but you got your 12-volt 10 amp cigarette lighter output right here.
Giggity, giggity.
So let's just go right to the 24-volt. See if I can get 200 watts out of it. Now this tester kind of maxes out at 185, but I just told it to go ahead and let it go to 200. So as you can see, the output is regulated to around 25.8 volts. Like I said, I'm just going to touch 200 real quick. Oh, there we go. Okay, we did exceed 200 watts. Now let's take this over to the 12-volt cigarette lighter on the B300 battery. All right, in this case, you have to turn DC on the battery, and I do have this battery sideways. There's nothing of importance on this end of the battery. All the hookups are up top. So I have these set up sideways. It's not going to hurt anything. And it looks like we're running at 13.3 volts regulated. And that's where it kind of maxes out. So we have 11.5 volts at 10 amps, about 118 watts. That is expected from BLUETTI. For this next test, we have to get a little complicated because we need to be able to pull 30 amps at 12 volts. Now, 12 volts at 30 amps is 360 watts. So we're going to come here on the screen and we're going to see if we can pull 360 watts, then we know you can do 30 amps out of this port. So let's go ahead. So we can watch either one of these numbers. It should be the same or very similar. We're looking for 360 watts. So I'm going to start the solar generator with no heat. The modified sine inverter is making this run a little wonky, but there we go. We're hitting 350-ish, 377. Okay, we're holding over 30 amps. And have we gotten any kind of alarm yet? Nope, no alarms yet. There we go. A minute later, we're still rock solid at around 370, 380 watts. No alarms, no problems. Now, I don't want to go around mentioning names of other solar generator companies that don't have great 12-volt outputs, but pretty much the BLUETTI series, these last 3 or 4 big models that come out have had these rock-solid 12-volt outputs on them. Now, they do consume extra power because they're so stable. Stability costs power. They got big honking complicated circuitry in here that allows you to pull 30 amps at 12 volts for long periods of time at a stable voltage. Some of the other competitors that I tested recently, they claim like a 30 amp, but as soon as you get to 25 amps, the voltage drops so bad that it kills the inverter. The inverter just shuts down once it gets below like 11 volts. That output's really not that useful above 20 amps or so, because if you can't sustain the voltage, it's just going to crap out your appliance, or your lights are going to get dim, or whatever you're running isn't going to run right if the voltage is too low. Now, and that applies to refrigerators too. You're plugging in a 12-volt fridge and the voltage drops too low, the thing's just going to shut off. Now let's take a closer look at the B300 battery. Now this has 2 inputs on it. One is a DC input, they call it. This is supposed to be for solar, but you can plug in cigarette lighter, you can plug in battery clamps. But it's 12 to 60 volts up to 10 amps. Now here's the catch. This has a 200 watt limit. So if you're going to use a solar panel to charge the battery directly, the limit's going to be 200 watts. This bottom input, however, is for the AC wall brick. This is going to allow you to charge the battery separately with this 500 watt AC wall charger. So unlike EcoFlow's product, the Delta Pro, which you cannot charge those batteries separately on their own. So you can plug the main unit in, tons of solar, AC, whatever, it will charge the batteries. I forgot to mention this in my AC200 Max. I figured it was obvious, but say you want to just take the battery out. So you just want to take the battery, you're not going to take the AC300 out. What if you want to charge it while you're on the road? Well, you can plug a solar panel into the top input. Now here's something BLUETTI's not going to tell you. If you get the DC charging enhancer, you can plug the DC charging enhancer into this and charge with 500 watts of solar. And then you can plug another 200 watts into this. So technically you can charge this at 700 watts. Now I know I've gotten a few questions. Can you charge from the main unit and here at the same time. Well, I'm going to find that out right now. Okay, so right now you see I'm charging at 2100 watts from the wall. Here's the power coming from the wall running into the AC wall charger. So the answer is absolutely yes. If you want to speed charge your B300, you can plug in the AC wall charger and the AC300 at the same time. And now I'm actually charging this thing at around 2500 watts for one battery. So yeah, it's absolutely possible to dual charge your B300 batteries. Fantastic. This next test is the amp interference test. This is to see how clean is the output of the inverter, the AC300. Is it good for amplifier or ham radio use? Turn on the inverter, hear a loud pop, and what are the results? Sounds pretty darn clean to me. That's how it's supposed to sound from wall power. So again, solid inverter, the AC300. Inverter capacity test. Now for this, I'm leaving the air conditioner on behind me because it's going to get quite hot in here. I have a 1600 watt electric heater, which I'm going to keep on the floor. I have this 1800 watt hair dryer, and these typically only pull about 1400 watts. Then of course I have the solar degenerator. So I'm going to run all three of these because we need to get this AC300 beyond 3000 watts. So the point of this test is to see how far can we push this inverter before it shuts down. Okay, heater is on high on the floor. I'm putting the hair dryer on high, putting this on the floor, and we're now actually at 3000 watts. So let's look at the sine wave. As you can see, the sine wave is perfect. We're holding 120 volts at 60 hertz, and this is at 3000 watts. So this is at max load. It's still rock solid. This is a great inverter. We're adding some solar degenerator now. 3200, 3300, 36, 37. Oh, and it finally shut down at 3778, I believe it was. Now we get an alarm. It says inverter overload protection. So we go ahead and clear those. Let's go ahead and push this at 3000 watts for at least 5 minutes. This is what I call the heat capacity test. This basically tests to see how good is the cooling inside this. All right, here's the setup, same as before, except we're gonna run 3200 watts, and I'm gonna start the timer as soon as we hit 3200 watts, and we're gonna see how long can we run this before it shuts down. This time I remembered to actually hit the record button. We're exactly 3200 watts. Hello there. Right there, it should be my new logo. Just my side profile there with the beard. All right, we're past 1 minute at 3200 watts, and we're still going. There we go, about 1:40. Okay, now we're gonna repeat this test, but at 3000 watts, which is what this is rated for. Right there, right at 3000 watts. Yeah, I'm like Alfred Hitchcock, you know, like he always had that side profile of Alfred Hitchcock. Well, there we go. And there we have it, 5 minutes at 3000 watts. Yay! So I barely got my hands on this in time to measure 56 decibels from the inverter fans before they shut off. Like other BLUETTI products, the inverter fans rarely kick on. They only kick on usually when you're at a max load, and then it cools down very quickly and then turns the fans back down again. One of the reasons why they do this, not only for the noise, is to save power, because when you're running all those fans at maximum speed, now it is running a fan very quietly. Let's go ahead and measure that. You can barely hear it. Literally 45 decibels. So the fans in this are not annoying, they're not loud, they're not going to bother you. For such a large generator, these things are quiet. If you're a fan of silence, you're going to like these new BLUETTI products. I am going to do a video on the UPS feature, but let me just go through it real quick and show you some of the stuff it can do. Working mode, standard UPS. Standard UPS is what it comes with by default from the factory. It pretty much just powers loads when the power goes out. That's all there is to it. Then you have these more fancy options. Time control. It actually allows you to set up time spaces where you can charge or discharge your BLUETTI depending on time of day. You can also set state of charge for how much battery you want to reserve. When do you want it to charge from the grid, or do you want it to charge from solar? Now you got PV priority mode, pretty much just a charge from solar, but it does keep at least 20%. and that's all customizable. Customize UPS mode is a little bit of everything. It allows you to disable or enable grid charging. So say you just want to use the UPS feature but not charge from the grid, you can disable that. Time control, you can enable or disable the time setting slots. Same thing I talked about before, where you can set up a certain time to charge and a certain time that you want your loads to cut off. This also has the state of charge settings. And they only have descriptions here on every screen that describes what these do. Most people are just going to use standard UPS mode and leave it at that. It's up to you. So what do I like about this sexy beast of a machine? Well, I know this term is way overused nowadays, but this product is a real game changer for the industry. Even the most hardcore enthusiasts out there can't complain about the features that the AC300 offers. It charges blisteringly fast, not just from the wall outlet, but also from solar. It's fully modular. The inverter is top of the line. It offers features for campers and RVers with 30 amp AC and 30 amp DC outputs. It's virtually silent running. It's scalable, and it offers the coveted 120 volt split phase operation when you parallel the units together. And it could be direct wired to your home. Let's not forget the programmable UPS, the wireless app, remote upgrade ability, and tons of high-powered USB outputs. We're all pretty much left wanting for nothing. This is the product that many of you have literally been waiting years for. And this all comes at a very reasonable price. Now, I already know a lot of DIYers are going to be angrily typing comments below and still making complaints that they can do better. But I want to see anyone build something better than this with all the same quality components and features in their garage for the same money. You can't. Now, what don't I like about the AC300? And yes, unfortunately, there's still a few bruises on this model. The biggest disappointment has to be the available battery capacity. Maybe it's just this battery that I got. Maybe it's the firmware. Maybe the inverter is simply a power hog. I won't know the answer until I work more with BLUETTI and I'll do some additional tests. If I can get a significantly better result, I will report it on this channel. I am definitely not a fan of this 24 volt cigarette lighter output. I can see folks already plugging in their 12 volt stuff by accident with some horrible results. I'm certainly going to be chatting with BLUETTI in hopes that they're going to at least provide some kind of warning to customers so they know not to plug their 12 volt devices into that cigarette lighter socket. Finally, the B300 batteries that come in around 80 pounds are a little bit on the heavy side. I think the B230 batteries that come with the AC200 Max are far more tossable and better for portable applications. While I can handle these 80-pound batteries, I know most of you are going to watch this and say, that's just too heavy for me. Now, if it's any consolation to you, BLUETTI has finally decided, after much hounding from me, to offer a trolley to make it easy to roll your AC300 and batteries around. Now, this is a folding trolley. Those of you that were on the AC200 campaign remember something very similar to this. Now, this doesn't have the compartment built in like the old one does, but this certainly has bigger wheels, and it feels like it's definitely rated for probably 300 pounds instead. I think the other one was 200 pounds. I really like this idea. Any solar generator company that comes out with a big heavy model should offer something like this to make it easier for you to pull it around on different kinds of terrain. Now, this will work fine in gravel or on grass. Now, it's not going to climb any stairs. It's not going to go off-roading with you. But this is certainly a pretty easy way to get something this big and heavy around. And yes, you can put the AC300 on the bottom and 2 batteries on top, pull it around, no problem. So this is a solution and an optional accessory if you really think you need it. And my favorite part, it folds up for storage. Okay, so many are saying, HOBOTECH, I want one of these, how much is it? The base model AC300 with single battery, this exact unit, what you see right here, goes for only $28.99 on the BLUETTI Power website. However, HOBOTECH viewers are getting tons of special discount codes with this launch. It's going to knock a few extra bucks off of what the general public pays. With my codes, you can actually get this BLUETTI setup for only $28.79. Now these codes and prices are only available for a limited time, and this unit is likely to sell out fast. Those of you that wanted the AC200 Max realize that that thing sold out within a few hours. This is likely to do the same. And that's why I put this video out a few hours early to give you guys a chance to watch this review and make your decision if you want to buy one of these when the retail version goes on sale at 7 a.m. Pacific Time, September 15th. As for competition, the main competitor for this is the EcoFlow Delta Pro, and many of you have already watched my review on that. Now, if you watch this video and that video, you'll realize that the two units have a lot of similar features. But here's a big difference. The design and packaging of the Delta Pro isn't nearly as user-friendly as this BLUETTI. First, the EcoFlow is far too heavy for most people to move around. The thing weighs well over 100 pounds. And second, you can't stack their batteries on top of the main unit like you can on this one, which means it wastes tons of floor space. Third, if you want to use their app, you're forced to join their cloud services, share your location, and have internet access, where the BLUETTI lets you use Bluetooth without an account to do pretty much all the same features. And yes, the EcoFlow batteries are more efficient than the BLUETTI. They scored in the 90th percentile, where this scored in the 70th percentile. However, the EcoFlow batteries are far more expensive, and that's especially now that the EcoFlow Kickstarter is over and they're now selling that product retail at a much higher price. Now, in my humble opinion, the choice between these two competitors is really a no-brainer. As for recommended solar, if you're not sure what kind of solar panels to get, I suggest you just get one of the available bundles that include the solar panels. I have a bunch of discount codes for many bundles that include solar panels. So if you're interested in the AC300 or the smaller AC200 Max that I reviewed a few weeks ago, I have links with all these products along with HOBOTECH exclusive discount codes below in the description of this video. Oh, and for those of you who've been waiting for the B230 batteries to go on sale a la carte, or the D50S DC charging enhancer, which is a fantastic little device, I have codes for those too. And yes, those are now going to be available as of 7 a.m. Pacific Time, September 15th. Please be aware that I am releasing this video a few hours before official launch, so you won't be able to purchase any of these products until at least 7 a.m. Pacific Time. If you click on the link before then, you can go read all about them. It's going to say sold out. Don't panic, that's not the case. Thanks for watching. If you learned something today, don't forget to give me that thumbs up below, and if you're not a subscriber already, you know what to do. That's it for now. Till next time.
Odin commands you to like and subscribe, and clean my litter box.
So welcome to my new downstairs Studio B, as I call it. This is my new studio / solar shed. It took 3 months to convert this room from a rat-infested chicken feed room that was full of rooster feces, rat feces. There were mice literally living inside the walls, so we had to tear all the walls out, insulation, replace the insulation, had to redo the concrete slab, replace a lot of wood, paint. I got some curtains and stuff. I got carpet on the floor. I got my desk from upstairs. These shelves here are going to have my batteries for my DIY home solar system. Now that's coming up pretty soon. Right now it's just helping me out get organized done. I literally moved into this room yesterday. I do have some soundproof panels I got to put up to get rid of some of the echo in this room to make it a little more studio friendly. But so far so good. It's working out very well. This is my first video in this room, and there's going to be plenty of videos in this room from now on. So hopefully you enjoy it, and we'll see you guys next time.
RV Golf Guy, Medic Audio Repair, Andrew Vaughn, Roger Cardano, Brian Blue, Bruce Johnson, Jason Sirocco.